You know that many African West Asians have been struggling to reach Europe, some even risking their lives, spending a lot of money paying these middlemen who promise to get them to Europe, then they find themselves on overloaded boats, which many times don't even reach Europe. You find cases of, let's take a look at some cases, and I can give you examples of some of these issues. For example, this is in the BBC, it's on the BBC website. Migrant boats in the Mediterranean. Why are so many people dying? Well, we know the reason. The boats are overloaded, basically. The people who are transporting these people are only really concerned about the money they're making and not about the lives of the people traveling on the boats. Here's another case. Italy's Coast Guard rescues 49 migrants from boats sinking in the Mediterranean. So people are risking their lives to get to a country, and when they reach those countries now, they're held up in immigrant camps. They don't even get to where they want to get to. They find themselves in a camp somewhere, not working and struggling to survive. So here's another case. Nearly 2,000 migrants have died of crossing the Mediterranean this year. That was last year, 2023. 2,000 people lost their lives trying to get to Europe. You can look at this issue and say, yes, people are struggling. Many of the economies, even here on the African continent, are not growing quick enough to keep up with the growth of the population itself, populations themselves. In West Asia, you find there's a lot of Western interference in the regions. So if I give you an example of American foreign policy at the root of forced migration from different parts of the world, and human rights advocates must address the problem. Fair enough, human rights organizations, but who has caused the problems in the first place is the Western or American in particular. UK is also involved, and NATO to some extent, involved in invading particularly West Asian countries. Some argue that it's for resources. One of the reasons why Europe desires, or needs, I should say, migrants to come into their region is the fact that their populations are not growing enough, and their working age population in particular is declining, has been declining, and will continue to decline. I have some figures here. I think it's up to 2050. So according to Forbes magazine, without immigration, the EU and the UK could find their economies crippled by worker shortages within the next 30 years. A shift in attitudes to immigrants, as politically and socially difficult as it is, as it might be, will be necessary to head off economic disaster. So what the article is basically saying, because of the shortage in workers for the economies, then the economies are likely to shrink. That's why there seems to be a need for migrants. There's some figures here indicating, so this is by Eurostat. It's a European organization that deals with statistics. So here, across the whole of Europe, the actual population was 726 million, I should say. And that was in 2000. 2010 it was 732 million. And by 2050, it will be around 656. That's a drop of 76 million across Europe. So the population of working age people, along with the population of working age people decreasing, you'll find that the population as a whole will decrease, and the proportion of elderly people in European populations will also increase. In fact, we take a look at the figures for the industrial age grouping. We'll see the changes that are likely to take place. The first figure shows the worker gap by 2050. United Kingdom will have 3.6 million less working age people by 2050. France will have 3.9 million less. Germany 7 million less. And across the European Union itself, including the UK, there'll be a loss of 43 million workers, working age people. And this is the gap that you want to be filled by migrants from Africa and West Asia. There's another aspect. There's a conspiracy theory that I was reading about called the Kalergi Plan. Count Richard von Coudenhove-Kalergi, they call him the godfather of the concept of the European Union. So around the early 1900s, he started a program to unify Europe, or to create what he called the United States of Europe, what they call the EU nowadays. So he also foresaw a Europe that was more mixed race in terms of Europeans mixing with Africans and Asians. So the white population of Europe will decrease in his eyes. That's what he saw back then. Let's have a look at what he said. Man will be hybrid in the distant future. Today's races and castes are increasingly falling victim to the fact that space, time, and prejudice are being overcome. The Eurasian Negroid race of the future, outwardly similar to the ancient Egyptian, will replace the diversity of peoples, the variety of personalities. So he's saying that there'll be a mixture of Eurasian and Africans to form, you can't call it a new race, but the white race will decline. This is just Europe. Across Africa and other regions, there'll still be a predominantly black or black African presence.